this is actually an area, I don't know if you can see, but there's like a bucket over here. There's the leg of a person here. This is a tourist site, and they actually feed the macaques, which gets them to come to this area, and tourists like to visit, right? So macaques can live in these very, very large troops. And in order to live in troops with hundreds of individuals, and we know this as humans, in order to live in groups or troops of really large numbers of individuals, you have to have some way, some rules. And dominance hierarchies are a way to create some rules within the society. And another thing that we'll talk about is the idea of grooming, these social interactions that are designed to reduce the stress of group living. So, as we discussed before, primates and many animals live in structures or societies designed to maximize inclusive fitness. Now, many primate groups have a core of related females. Because remember, if females have to share food, it's best that they share food with their closest relative, other individuals who are related to them. So many primate groups have a core. The group that never immigrates out are related females. So females are born into the group and they stay there throughout their life. That's their natal group. You stay in their natal group for life. Males immigrate out of the natal group at sexual maturation. Males. This is many, this is not all, but this is many primate groups have this social structure. When there are multiple females in a group, those females tend to be related to one another, which means it's the males that are immigrating out at sexual maturation. By keeping the related females together, that means that they can share food with one another if necessary, and that maximizes inclusive fitness for the species as a whole. So those of you in the back talking, yes, you, please stop. We can hear you up here. The people around you may be very well disturbed by how you hear. Right? I had several complaints from students in this class about people talking during lecture. Please be considerate of your fellow classmates and don't engage in conversation during class. If all you want to do is talk, go sit out there and Zoom or stay at home and Zoom. I'm not trying to be rude to you. I want you here because I think it's a much better educational experience. And I know I'm not the most scintillating lecturer out there, but please be considerate of your fellow classmates. Thank you. All right, so these groups, and in these groups, we tend to see, because you have lots of individuals, there has to be some structuring. There has to be some structuring. If everybody is equal, which is, we think, sort of how it should be, that everyone should be equal, but you still have to have some people that have more power, or individuals that have more power or more sway than others. So we get dominance hierarchies. And even in a society that we think is supposed to be egalitarian like our own, we do have dominance hierarchies. Even if you think of it in terms of politics, we elect people through the democratic process to be our leaders. We are creating a dominance hierarchy through that process. But what is much more common is that there are natural dominance hierarchies that exist in societies. And this is what we see in non-human primate groups. In most primate species, males are dominant to females. And in most cases, every male is dominant to every female, right? They are just bigger, typically stronger, and they are dominant. Although there are a few exceptions. And these exceptions, I'm going to give you 3 examples of these exceptions. It's all about food. When we get exceptions, it's about food. One of these are, right, that's not how it's supposed to pop up. One of these are in the center. Let's go actually to the far left. Look at the ring-tailed lemur. Ring-tailed lemurs lived in a very dry, desert-like environment in Madagascar. They live in large troops, multi-male, multi-female, right? And in these societies, females are dominant to males. Females are dominant. Females decide where they're going to go forage during the day. Females can displace a male from a food resource. She'll just walk up and give him he doesn't leave, she'll give him she'll smack him, run him off. They don't take guff. But the issue is that food is scarce. This is an area where food is not plentiful, particularly during the dry season. And what do females need to be reproductively successful? Food. So this primate group has evolved a social structure or dominance hierarchy where females hold more power. More important that you get reproduction over the long haul than it is for one sex to be dominant over the other. And in order for the females to get adequate nutrition to reproduce at a level necessary to sustain the species, she has to be able to displace males from food resources, which ends up meaning that she gains other types of social power as well. We also see this in a form with the gelada monkeys. We looked at them with their unimale, one male, multi-female group, and the males are big. There is significant male-male competition for these family groups, but it isn't just the male who decides who's going to be the dominant male in a family group. If the females don't like the male who's trying to take over their family group, they will back up their family male. You will have to deal with the lip flip. That is not a pleasant look, right? And they will try to, and it's oftentimes effectively support a family male when he's being challenged by another male who does not have a family group, right? Because they like him and they don't want to have things change. Whereas in most other one male, multi-female social groups, it's only the males that work out the social structure. Who's a family male, who's not? Just between the males. In this case, females have enough power to insert themselves into that process. And that's because gelada monkeys survive on almost entirely grass. The vast majority of their diet comes from grass. They sleep in the cliffs at night. They come down. They're in Ethiopia and southern Arabian Peninsula. They come down on these big grass plains and they sit on their haunches and they just pick grass and eat. Pick grass and eat. And what is the most widely distributed food? Yes, grass. It's everywhere. And that is also why we see those bright red patches on their chest and their neck. They're cercopithecines, so they would get the coloration in the perineal region associated with, in the genital region associated with sexual receptivity, but they're sitting all the time. So they've evolved these patches on their chest, and for females, when it's bright red, it means she's an estrus. She's ovulating and receptive to sexual intercourse with the male, with their family male, right? So because food is not an issue, there's plenty to go around, there's no real competition, even though they have to basically spend all day eating to get enough food. these females can afford to band together and insert themselves into the male dominant hierarchy. Right? And then the third example are the bonobos. Right? Bonobos are almost genetically identical to chimpanzees and are very, very similar to us. And like chimpanzees, they have that multi-male, multi-female group structure, and males in chimpanzee society are dominant to all females, and they are aggressive. They do not hesitate to act out their dominance in a physically aggressive manner to remind a female of her place. And then the males themselves compete to maintain control. They have their own sort of status thing going on where the hierarchy's changing. Right? They're very political animals. They'll actually sort of form little coalitions to try to get power, get to the top of the social hierarchy. Right? Chimpanzees have society, and bonobos. They're multi-male, multi-female, but the males are the bonded group. That is who stays in the natal community. The males, they're related to each other. It's the females that are forced to immigrate. Female chimpanzees and bonobos are large enough that in the areas that they live, there isn't adequate fruit for them to share, right? And that is their favored food, fruit. The chimpanzees live north of the Congo River, and bonobos live in this area south of the Congo River. And in the area south of the Congo River, there is a herbaceous ground cover that is much more nutritious than your regular grass or stuff that grows. And it basically provides decent nutritional quality snacking food. So bonobos, as they travel from area to area, basically looking for fruit trees because that's their favorite food, they have this herbaceous ground cover to snack on as they go. So they're snacking. And this means that there's enough food, quality food, that it significantly reduces the competition among the females for access to food. And when you reduce the competition among females for access to food, they can team up together. And that is what bonobo females do. They develop, even though they're not related to each other, they develop bonds through sexual intercourse with each other. And then they use sex to keep the males pretty calm and chill and mellow, and everybody kind of goes along and gets along. And it's about food and access to food. So, all right, that's my little diversion back to the regular programming. Dominance hierarchies. And most males are dominant to females. And these dominance hierarchies typically exist when you have multiple adult males and multiple adult females in the troop. And this also applies to social structures where you have bachelor groups, one male with multiple females, and then bachelor groups, because oftentimes there's one male, multiple females. The family group is actually part of a much larger troop that includes those bachelor groups. So while the reproductive unit is the family group, one male, multi-female, the larger community is hundreds and hundreds of individuals potentially. So lots and lots and lots of family groups plus some bachelor groups. You get the same sort of tension in these groups. All right? Now, for females, there must be dominance hierarchies because there's competition for food. You have lots of females, you're going to end up with competition for food. The dominance hierarchies among females tend to be stable. And the reason why they're stable is because rank is inherited. It is inherited from your mother. So if your mother is a high-ranking female, then as her daughter, you are a high-ranking female. Remember, you're staying in your natal group, or the group that you were born into. So if you are a female at the top of the social status, up here, where there are only a few, right, then as the daughter of a high-ranking female, you will live your life as a high-ranking female. Then as you come down the social hierarchy, there are more individuals, right? Because you have natural lines, and then you have the lower-ranking individuals. If you are the daughter of a low-ranking individual, you are a low-ranking individual. That is your status in life. Now, this does not apply to the males, because the males have their own dominance hierarchy, and males immigrate out of their natal community, or the group that they're born into. So the rank of their mother does not affect, in an immediate sense, their status in the group that they immigrate into. Okay. So we have this inherited rank in the dominant hierarchy for females. So we have the lower-ranking females, mid-ranking females, and higher-ranking females within the hierarchy. Now, for males, the hierarchy is fluid and changeable. Fluid and changeable. And some of the best examples of these dominance hierarchies that I'm talking about are like macaques, all the different species of macaques, where you get large groups. There was macaque females with their babies in the previous slide. These are obviously baboon males. And in the male dominant hierarchies, rank is earned. And it is earned through challenging and competing, or actually fighting or threatening other males. And the hierarchy is fluid and changeable. You immigrate into a new group, and you typically start at the bottom of the hierarchy. And then you challenge a higher ranking male, and you can start to climb the hierarchy, climb the pyramid. And then you challenge another male, and then ultimately you can become the highest ranking male in your group, right? But you only stay the highest ranking male as long as you can maintain power and withstand the competition of other males physically challenging you for status within the community. So this hierarchy is fluid, it's changeable, and it is earned. This is why the rank of a mother doesn't have an immediate impact on the rank of males in the dominance hierarchy. They're living in different groups, yeah. It just drops a little bit. Yeah, but usually, animals sense weakness, and he might get challenged by another lower ranking male. You might lose status even further. And typically, when you're young, you can climb the hierarchy, and as you age, you start to come down the hierarchy, or if you're injured. Mm-hmm. Now, grooming behavior is particularly important because it's basically the social glue, or I don't know how to say it, but it works like touch does among humans. Humans need touch, and studies have shown that primates need touch. They need interaction with other individuals, both physical interaction as well as social interaction. And one of the ways that they physically interact with each other is an activity called grooming. We see this in lemurs and lorises. Remember, they had that grooming claw, right? We see this in monkeys. We see it in apes. And it is a behavior where one individual, or multiple individuals sometimes, will sit there and pick through the fur of an individual and look for dirt or insects or a parasite, and they pick it out, right? It's called grooming. It's essentially cleaning, but they kind of carefully go through the fur. And as you can, and insects, they find insects like lice or other things, or ants, or they're going to eat it. You get a little snack along the way, right? And you can see by these two macaques grooming and this guy right here, this feels pretty darn good. It's very relaxing. It's like getting a massage or having someone brush your hair or rub your scalp or your shoulders. It is very soothing, very relaxing behavior. And you can see this little guy here too, man. He just like knocks you out. And this lowers stress level and creates bonds among individuals. So we see it among all the different groups. And here you can see some chimpanzee females, or two adult females with juveniles here. And this female is grooming this juvenile. This female is then grooming this adult female. Something you may notice when you look at images of chimpanzees from zoos is that their fur seems pretty thin. That here and here, how thin looking that fur is, how thin it is. And that is because they spend so much time grooming. They essentially over-groom, and it results in the loss of hair. Chimpanzees and bonobos are highly intelligent animals. They have brains 3 times the size of what you would expect in a mammal of the same body size. Very intelligent, very social. They need that social interaction. They need the stress reduction. And so they basically overdo it when it comes to grooming in zoo settings, because they're trying to deal with boredom, stress, anxiety. Do you imagine being cooped up in an area where people come and stare at you every day, and people knock on your barrier, they yell things, they can throw things, right? It can be a very, very stressful existence. And so grooming is a way to reduce stress and anxiety, and in some cases, particularly among the higher order primates like chimpanzees, bonobos, you'll see this with orangutans, that they engage in the behavior almost a little too much. So when we talk about using these cards that you fill out and are going to go and be used for animal enrichment, they may not necessarily go to chimpanzees, but animals in captive settings do need activities. They need things that they can interact with in a tactile sense and engage with, and there's all sorts of different uses. But this is what we talk about when we talk about enrichment of animals and their environment in a captive setting. Okay. Yes, question. Their primary mode, what? Yes, it is. It's hygienic as well as social interaction. So it serves both purposes. Yeah, because they do remove dirt. You know, if they find a tick or something that's in here, they'll pull it off. So it does serve a lot of purposes, but it really creates this sort of stress reduction, and it's that social interaction. So grooming tends to occur between individuals who know each other, who are related to each other, individuals of roughly equal status, or lower ranking individuals will groom higher ranking individuals. But you're right, it does have an important hygiene function. All right, well, instead of going into a big example, all right, so on your study guide for exam 2, right under food acquisition, which is under grooming, there's cognition, communication, cooperation, tool use, exported aggression, protoculture. All of that will be on exam 3. That will not be on exam 2. So the general primate behavior, resident structure, all the stuff I mentioned at the very beginning, right? Group living, reproductive strategies, kin selection, acquiring food, as well as the relationship between food and residence patterns and adaptations to group living will all be on the exam. And let me quickly show you my last slide. And so before I let you go, or if there are any last questions, I do want to point out, been thinking, what is my favorite primate this year? I have a different favorite primate every year. And this year I have landed on the vervet monkey, sometimes called the green monkey. Vervet monkeys live in sub-Saharan Africa. They are both terrestrial and arboreal. So they're in the tree, they're on the ground, they're really cute guys. They're actually not that big, very smart primate. These are the guys with the bright blue balls, and they use those blue testicles to threaten each other. That's how the males threaten each other. And these primates were transported to the Caribbean during the European colonial period, and they now live, there's a large number of them on the island of St. Kitts. And yes, they do like to drink. St. Kitts is a big tourist island. For a long time, it was a sugar cultivation island, colonized by the French and then the British. And there are videos, I'll be happy to post one, about these vervet monkeys that have done very, very well on St. Kitts. There are now large numbers of them on the island, and that they'll actually go to tourist sites, particularly beaches, where people aren't necessarily paying attention to their drink, and they'll grab the drink and have a sip. And if you ever do get the chance to go to St. Kitts, I strongly encourage, if you like beer and are of legal age, which you probably are on St. Kitts, I think it's 18, the carob beer on St. Kitts is brewed there on the island. It is unlike the carob anywhere else. It is distinctly different, and it is really good. The Jamaican carob, the Canadian carob, not the same as the St. Kitts carob brewed on island. And this vervet monkey, he knows a good beer when he tastes one. So, vervet monkeys. That's my favorite monkey this year. All right, any questions before I let you guys go? All right, I'll post an announcement with some specific information about exam 2. So be on the lookout for that.